Listen up, because I need you to get this through your head. Your mind isn't tired. It's overloaded. You're not broken. You're not lazy. You're just drowning in noise. You wake up, grab your phone before you even take a breath, and instantly, 100 voices start screaming for your attention. Notifications, headlines, opinions, drama. Before you've even brushed your teeth, the world has hijacked your focus, and then you wonder why you can't think straight. It's because you've let everyone else live rent-free inside your head. Here's the truth. Your brain was never designed to process this much input. Every argument you read online, every highlight reel on social media, every dumb debate you get sucked into, it all piles up. You don't even notice it happening, but every scroll steals a piece of your clarity. You can't hear your own thoughts anymore because everyone else's noise is louder. That's why you feel anxious for no reason. That's why you can't sit still in silence. You've conditioned your brain to crave chaos. Stop doing that to yourself. You're not tired of life. You're exhausted from overstimulation. You think you need motivation? No, you need peace. You think you need a new plan? No, you need space to think. The reason you can't make decisions is because your mind is jammed with other people's nonsense. You've let the algorithm control your mindset. You've let strangers decide what matters to you. That's not living. That's mental slavery. And you're the one holding the leash. It's time to evict the noise, all of it. You don't need to be updated on everything happening in the world. You don't need to reply to every message. You don't need to have an opinion about everything. Here's what you need: silence. Silence is how you reset your brain. Silence is where your real power hides. You can't build focus when your attention is scattered in 1,000 directions. You can't grow when your mind is busy reacting to everyone else's chaos. And before you say, "But Mel, I can't just disappear," stop. No one said disappear. I said disconnect. There's a difference. Start small. Turn off your notifications. Stop doom scrolling the second you wake up. Put your phone in another room for an hour. You have no idea how much energy you'll get back when you stop letting the world interrupt your peace every 2 minutes. Your focus determines your reality, so start acting like it. And let's be clear, this isn't about meditation or yoga or some fluffy self-care crap. This is about discipline. Real discipline. Training yourself to stop reacting like a puppet every time your phone buzzes, because every reaction is a tiny piece of your control being handed away. You think successful people spend their mornings arguing in comment sections? No. They build in silence. They work while everyone else talks. They focus while everyone else scrolls. That's why they win. You want to know why you feel drained all the time? Because you're running a mental marathon every single day without realizing it. Every time you jump from one notification to another, your brain burns energy. Every time you argue with someone who doesn't matter, you lose focus. You keep pouring from an empty cup and wondering why you're burnt out. Stop giving your energy to things that don't serve you. Protect it like your life depends on it, because it does. The harsh truth, the noise won't stop until you make it stop. The world isn't going to get quieter. You have to get stronger. You have to create boundaries so tight that nothing gets in without permission. You want to find peace? You want to think clearly again? Then learn to disconnect. Learn to sit in silence until the chaos in your head starts to fade. That silence will feel uncomfortable at first because you've been avoiding it for years. But that discomfort, that's detox. That's your brain coming back to life. So here's your challenge. Today, take back your attention. Every time you reach for your phone out of boredom, stop. Every time someone tries to drag you into meaningless drama, stop. Every time you catch yourself reacting to something that doesn't deserve your energy, stop. How you start training your mind to stay silent by choosing peace over noise every single time. Because once you understand how deadly that noise really is, you'll never treat your attention the same way again. You'll realize silence isn't weakness, it's power. And that's exactly what we're diving into next, why staying silent doesn't make you passive. It makes you unstoppable. Listen, you've been taught your whole life that silence means weakness, that if you don't speak up, if you don't argue, if you don't clap back, you're somehow losing. That's garbage. Real power isn't loud. Real power doesn't need to prove itself. You want to know what silence actually is? It's control, it's discipline, it's emotional intelligence at its highest level. When you stay silent, you're not ignoring the world, you're mastering it. Here's the truth. Most people talk because they're insecure. They talk to fill the silence because silence forces them to face themselves. They need validation. They need attention. They need to feel like they're being heard. But you don't need that anymore. You're training your mind to be silent because you've realized something most people never will. Silence is strategy. It's how you win without saying a word. When you stop reacting, you start observing. That's the shift. That's where your power begins. The moment you choose silence instead of reaction, you gain an advantage. You see patterns. You catch lies. You understand motives. You start seeing who people really are instead of who they pretend to be. Silence is what allows you to see the truth beneath all the noise. And the truth, most people are just performing. You don't need to join the circus. You need to stand still and watch it burn itself out. Think about it. Every argument, every fight, every online comment battle, it's all noise designed to pull you off balance. The moment you react, they win. The moment you defend yourself, you give them control. But when you stay quiet, when you refuse to bite the bait, they lose their power. You become unpredictable. You become untouchable. That's what silence does. It gives you leverage. You're no longer controlled by emotion. You're guided by logic. I get it. It's not easy. Your brain is wired to react. You hear something insulting and you want to strike back. You see someone take credit for your work and you want to expose them. You feel misunderstood and you want to explain yourself, but that's the trap. Every reaction drags you deeper into their chaos. The strongest people on this planet aren't the ones who yell the loudest. They're the ones who can sit in the storm and say nothing. They conserve their energy while everyone else wastes theirs. Silence is your reset button. It's how you keep your power when everyone else is losing theirs. I'll tell you this. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means control. When you can sit in a room full of noise, judgment, and pressure and keep your mouth shut, you're in charge. You're not being passive. You're being deliberate. You're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers. You're thinking 10 moves ahead while they're reacting to the last one. That's what makes you dangerous in the best way possible. You want to level up your life? Start practicing silence as your default response. Someone insults you? Stay quiet. Someone tries to provoke you? Stay quiet. Someone asks for details about your plans? Stay quiet. Your silence will confuse them. It will frustrate them. It will make them wonder what you're thinking. And that's exactly where you want them, guessing. Because when they're guessing, you're in control. And I'll be blunt. If you can't control your tongue, you can't control your life. The people who talk too much give away their power. They reveal their plans, their weaknesses, their insecurities. Stop doing that. Your silence protects your focus. It protects your energy. It protects your future. Every time you speak, ask yourself, does this move me forward or does it drain me? If it drains you, shut up. It's that simple. Here's what most people will never understand. Silence doesn't make you invisible. It makes you powerful. It makes you mysterious. It makes you intentional. You stop being predictable, and that scares people because they can't read you anymore. They can't pull you into their drama. They can't control your reactions. You've become the calm in the middle of the chaos, and that's what real power looks like. So the next time you feel the urge to respond, don't. The next time you feel the need to prove yourself, don't. Let your silence speak, because silence always says more than words ever could. But here's the question. If silence is power, how do you build it? How do you actually train yourself not to react when your emotions take over? Here's the hardest truth you'll ever swallow. Your reactions are the reason you're stuck. Every time you react without thinking, you hand your power over. Someone provokes you, you explode. Someone disrespects you, you defend yourself. Someone doubts you, you rush to prove them wrong. That's not strength. That's emotional slavery. And if you don't master it, it'll own you for the rest of your life. Let's be real. The world wants you reactive. Every social media post, every headline, every argument is designed to trigger you. Because when you react, you're not thinking, you're emotional. And emotional people are easy to manipulate. That's why silence and control are rare. Most people don't even realize how much of their life is dictated by external noise. Someone says one wrong thing and their entire day is ruined. Think about that. A few words from someone else can destroy your peace if you let it. So how do you stop reacting? You train yourself to pause. That's it. The pause is your weapon. Before you speak, before you text back, before you post, before you argue, pause. In that moment of silence, you create space between the trigger and the response. That's where wisdom lives. That's where power begins. Because in that space, you decide what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And 90% of the time, it doesn't. You want to be truly dangerous? Learn to stay calm when everything inside you wants to explode. Learn to breathe instead of react. Learn to let things go instead of chasing validation. People will think you've changed. They'll think you don't care. Let them. They're not supposed to understand because your silence isn't indifference, it's elevation. You've stopped playing emotional games with amateurs. You're learning emotional control, and that scares people who live off chaos. Let's be honest. Reacting feels good in the moment. It gives you that hit of adrenaline. You get to set the record straight. You get to put them in their place. But later, when the dust settles, you feel drained, empty. Because deep down, you know you gave away something sacred, your peace. And that's the trap you've got to escape. Every reaction costs you focus. Every argument steals time from your growth. Every outburst distances you from your discipline. Control is built one pause at a time. It's not about suppressing emotion. It's about understanding it. When you feel anger, don't run from it. Observe it. When you feel disrespected, don't lash out. Study it. Ask yourself, why does this trigger me? Every time you ask that question, you grow stronger. Because now you're not being controlled by emotion. You're using emotion to understand yourself. That's mastery. You've got to realize your silence is not a lack of words. It's a statement of strength. When you refuse to react, you're saying, I'm not available for chaos. You're saying, my energy is too expensive for this nonsense. And trust me, that mindset will save you from 90% of life's problems. Most people create their own suffering simply because they can't shut up and walk away. You're going to be different. You're going to let your calm destroy their chaos. Remember this, power is not loud. Power is composed. The man who can control his emotions can control any room he walks into. The woman who can stay calm when others panic will always lead. Because control equals clarity. And clarity equals power. So the next time someone disrespects you, pause. When someone lies about you, pause. When someone doubts you, pause. Let silence do the talking. Let your results speak for you. Because when you stop reacting, you stop bleeding energy. You start living intentionally. You've mastered your voice. Now it's time to master your mind, because silence may protect your peace, but mindset is what builds your empire. Let me tell you something that most people will never understand. The strongest mind is not the one that knows everything. It's the one that can't be broken. You can be intelligent, talented, educated, but if your mind collapses under pressure, you'll never rise above mediocrity. The real game isn't about being the smartest person in the room. It's about being the calmest when everything goes wrong. You want to build an unbreakable mind? Then stop chasing comfort. Stop begging life to be easy. Because the truth is, your mind only grows when you suffer with purpose. Every time you face a setback and keep going, you're building armor. Every time you wake up and do the hard thing when you don't feel like it, you're reinforcing discipline. That's how warriors are made. Not in moments of victory, but in moments of doubt. Let's get real. Your mind is a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through resistance. That means the obstacles, the pain, the rejection, all of it is training. The people who insult you are teaching you patience. The failures are teaching you humility. The silence from others is teaching you independence. Everything that hurts you is trying to make you stronger, but only if you're willing to learn. Unbreakable mind doesn't come from reading motivational quotes. It comes from repetition, from routine, from doing what's right, especially when no one's watching. Because mental toughness isn't built in a single moment. It's built in 1,000 quiet choices. Waking up early, saying no to distractions, staying disciplined when nobody believes in you. That's how you transform pain into power. Most people run from discomfort. They say, I can't handle this anymore. But the ones who rise, they say, let's see how much I can take. They don't escape the fire. They walk through it. They understand that every storm ends. But what you become during that storm stays forever. That's why I say, don't pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a hard one. Because the person who can endure pain without breaking becomes unstoppable. Let me give you a rule. Control your focus or you lose your freedom. Whatever you focus on grows. If you keep focusing on what you can't control, your mind weakens. But if you focus on your effort, your habits, your growth, you'll become bulletproof. The chaos outside will never disturb the peace inside. That's the highest level of mastery. You need to understand that an unbreakable mind is built through isolation. There will be seasons when you'll feel completely alone. Nobody will understand you. Nobody will support you. That's not a punishment. That's training. The universe removes people from your path to make space for your evolution. Because when you walk alone, you meet the version of yourself that you've been avoiding. And when you finally meet that version, the disciplined, focused, unshakable you, everything changes. You stop needing validation. You stop chasing approval. You stop explaining yourself to people who don't even understand themselves. You realize that the goal isn't to impress the world. It's to master yourself. You've got to reach a point where your peace is non-negotiable. No insult, no failure, no setback should have the power to take that away. Because when your mind becomes unbreakable, you stop reacting to life. You start directing it. You no longer get tossed around by emotions or circumstances. You become the calm eye of the storm, aware, steady, unmovable. So how do you know when your mind is unbreakable? When you stop needing everything to go when you can smile in chaos, when you can stay focused while everyone else complains. That's when you know you've built something solid. Because in the end, success doesn't belong to the smartest or the loudest. It belongs to the ones who can't be broken. And if you can stay still in the storm, trust me, you'll own the silence that follows. Listen carefully. Silence isn't weakness. It's strategy. Most people think that if you're quiet, you're losing. Wrong. The loudest person in the room is usually the one trying hardest to prove something. But the quiet one? That's the person who already knows. Silence is not the absence of power. It's the storage of it. The moment you stop reacting, you start controlling. Here's the truth. When you stay silent, you confuse people. They can't figure out what you're thinking, what you're planning, or how much you know. And that's exactly how you want it. Comes from unpredictability. You can't control how others treat you, but you can control how you respond. And sometimes the smartest response is no response at all. When you refuse to react, you strip their control over you. You become untouchable. Let me tell you why silence works. Every time you argue, explain, defend, or overreact, you waste energy. You give your peace away in exchange for nothing. But when you stay silent, you're building inner pressure, energy that's redirected toward progress. That's why the most successful people are quiet when others are loud. They're not ignoring the noise. They're mastering themselves. You've got to understand, silence is not about shutting up. It's about tuning in. When you stop talking, you start hearing the truth about others and about yourself. You notice who really supports you. You hear your own thoughts clearly. You stop being influenced by every opinion that floats past you. That's when real awareness begins. And awareness is the foundation of power. Let's get brutally honest. Your life is loud because your mind is noisy. You scroll too much, argue too much, care too much about what people think. You're addicted to stimulation, not growth. Silence is the detox your soul needs. When you start cutting off distractions, the unnecessary conversations, the fake validation, the constant explanations, you'll realize how much energy you've been wasting. That energy, once reclaimed, becomes focus. And focus builds empires. I want you to practice this. Next time someone tries to provoke you, don't explain yourself. Don't defend your decision. Just look at them, breathe, and say nothing. Watch what happens. They'll start to stumble. They'll lose power because you didn't play their game. That's silence as dominance, not out of arrogance, but out of strength. And let's be clear. Silence doesn't mean weakness, passivity, or avoidance. It means choosing peace over chaos. It means mastering timing. You speak when it matters, not when you're triggered. You act when it's strategic, not when it's emotional. Because the moment you stop reacting impulsively, you take back control of your entire life. Think about lions. They don't roar all day. They're silent until it's time to strike. That's how you need to be. Patient, aware, controlled. The world doesn't respect noise. It respects results. So stop proving your worth through words. Let your consistency speak. Let your results do the talking. That's real power. Silence gives you clarity, focus, and strength. It allows you to hear the whispers of opportunity that noise drowns out. The moment you embrace stillness, life stops feeling like a blur. It starts feeling intentional. That's when you rise above the chaos and begin to operate from a higher level of awareness. Because here's the ultimate truth. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. And when you finally learn to trust the calm, you'll realize that quiet voice inside you, it's been guiding you all along. Listen up. If you want real peace, if you want real power, you have to learn to detach. And I don't mean pretend you don't care. I mean actually stop giving your emotions away to things that don't matter. Every time you let someone's words ruin your day, you give them control over you. Every time you chase approval, argue online, or obsess over outcomes, you're saying, here, take my power. I don't need it. Stop it. Take it back. Here's the truth. Emotional attachment is the reason most people stay stuck. You're too attached to how people see you, too attached to getting it perfect, too attached to winning every argument. And that attachment creates anxiety, frustration, chaos. You can't control outcomes, and deep down, you know it. But you keep trying to force them anyway. That's why you're exhausted. Let me tell you something. When you learn to detach, you don't stop caring, you just stop suffering. You stop reacting to every opinion, every delay, every disappointment. You start seeing life for what it is, unpredictable, messy, but manageable. Detachment gives you perspective. It's not cold, it's clarity. You stop drowning in emotion long enough to think clearly, and that's where the power comes from. People think peace comes from fixing everything around them. Wrong. Peace comes from fixing your response to everything around you. When someone criticizes you, detach. When plans fall apart, detach. When people walk away, detach. Not because you're heartless, but because you refuse to lose your balance every time. Life shakes you. I've been there, chasing approval, trying to make everyone like me, obsessing over every outcome. It's exhausting. You think you're doing it to stay in control, but you're actually giving it away. The minute you stop needing everyone's validation, you become unshakable. You walk differently, you think differently, you speak less and do more, you stop begging for peace, you become it. Here's what detachment really looks like in daily life. You get rejected, and instead of spiraling, you say, okay, next. You make a plan, and when it falls through, you don't complain. You pivot, someone ghosts you, you don't chase. You move on. That's not arrogance, that's emotional discipline. That's you saying, I won't let circumstances control my state of mind. That's real power. When you detach, you start to see what actually deserves your energy. Most of what you stress about, opinions, gossip, likes, rumors, doesn't matter. You're burning mental fuel on distractions while your goals starve. Detachment cuts that off. It's like closing all the extra tabs in your brain. Suddenly you have clarity. You have focus. You're not reacting to life anymore. You're designing it. Let me be clear. Attachment doesn't mean apathy. It means strength. It's looking at chaos and saying, you don't get to have me today. It's not shutting down emotionally. It's rising above emotionally. That's the mindset of someone who wins long term. Because the person who can stay calm when everyone else panics, that's the person who always comes out on top. So stop trying to control people. Stop trying to fix every situation. Stop waiting for everything to be perfect before you move. That's weakness disguised as care. The world doesn't need your reaction. It needs your focus. The less you react, the more power you hold, the more detached you are, the less you can be manipulated. You want freedom? Detach. You want power? Detach. You want peace? Detach. Because when you stop clinging to what's outside your control, you finally get to control what's inside, your focus, your discipline, your direction. And that's everything. Now that you understand the power of emotional detachment, it's time to go even deeper. To embrace the truth that silence itself isn't just a tool, it's the ultimate weapon. Because when you learn to live and lead with silence, that's when you truly become unstoppable. You've heard the phrase 1,000 times, silence is golden. But let's be honest, most people don't live that way. You can't stand silence. You fill every gap with noise, music, scrolling, gossip, complaining, reacting. You're addicted to sound because silence forces you to face yourself. And that's the real problem. You don't want to hear your own thoughts. You don't want to confront the truth about what's draining you, what's distracting you, or who you've become. Here's the truth bomb. Silence isn't weakness. It's not submission. It's strategy. The loudest person in the room usually has the least control. The quietest one, they're watching, thinking, learning, and planning their next move. Power doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't beg for attention. It speaks only when necessary. And when it does, everyone listens. That's what real strength looks like. Listen to me. You don't owe the world your constant reaction. You don't need to post your feelings, defend your every decision, or explain your silence. Stop it. That's insecurity, not transparency. Strong people stay silent because they're too busy building. They don't have time to justify their peace to people who live in chaos. They've learned that silence protects their energy, their focus, their dignity. You think you need to clap back at every insult, every criticism, every misunderstanding? You don't. When you argue with a fool, you become one. When you explain yourself to someone who's already decided what to believe, you waste your time. Silence is how you say, I've got nothing to prove. It's how you show the world that you value peace over pointless battles. That's not weakness. That's emotional intelligence at its highest level. Here's the thing. Silence is discipline. It's self-control in action. It's you refusing to let your emotions drive the car. When you feel triggered, but you don't react, that's power. When you want to talk, but you hold back because it doesn't serve you, surety. Every time you stay silent, instead of arguing, gossiping, or defending yourself, you're training your mind to operate from strength, not ego. And silence is clarity. In a quiet mind, truth gets loud. When you stop talking, you start hearing the signals your intuition's been screaming at you for years. You realize what's working, what's not, who's genuine, who's draining you. The answers you've been chasing don't come from the noise. They come from the stillness. That's why silence is golden, because it reveals what chaos hides. Let me warn you, most people won't understand your silence. They'll take it personally. They'll call you distant, arrogant, cold. Ignore that. Their discomfort says more about them than it does about you. You're not being rude. You're being intentional. You're not withdrawing. You're evolving. You've decided that peace is more important than popularity. That's the moment your power multiplies. When you start practicing silence, you'll feel weird at first. You'll want to fill the space. You'll want to respond. Don't. Let the silence do the talking. Let your results speak for you. Let your composure intimidate the noise. Remember this. Lions don't roar at every barking dog. They keep walking. That's the energy you need to move with. Here's your challenge. The next time you feel the urge to react, don't. The next time you want to defend yourself, don't. The next time you want to explain your plan, don't. Stay silent. Watch what happens. You'll realize that 90% of what you thought needed your voice didn't deserve. And in that silence, you'll find something rare. Peace, power, and perspective. So stop trying to prove your point and start proving your discipline. Stop using words to convince people and start using results to silence them. The world doesn't need another loud person. It needs more grounded ones. And the more you practice silence, the more control you gain over your emotions, your direction, and your destiny. Because after all, silence isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things quietly. It's about replacing noise with results. And that's exactly where we're heading next. Learning how to stop talking and start acting. You need to hear this. Talking isn't progress. Talking feels good because it tricks your brain into thinking you're actually doing something. You post your goals, you tell your friends, you make plans, and then nothing happens. Why? Because you've already rewarded yourself with the dopamine hit of saying it out loud. You don't want to do the work anymore. Your brain thinks it already did. That's why most people stay stuck. They talk themselves into feeling productive instead of being productive. Here's the truth. The more you talk about it, the less likely you are to do it. That's not my opinion. That's neuroscience. Every time you say, I'm going to start, you release the same chemicals as if you actually did start. So your brain relaxes. You feel accomplished for a goal you never even touched. That's why I tell people, stop announcing, start acting. Let your work be louder than your words. You want to change your life? Shut your mouth and move your feet. I mean that with love, but also with urgency. You don't need another plan. You don't need more motivation. You need movement. You need to get up and do something today, even if it's small, even if it's messy. Success doesn't come from the speech. It comes from the silence between the speeches, the hours when no one's watching and you're just grinding. Think about how many times have you said, this time I'm serious? How many promises have you made to yourself that you didn't keep? That's not bad luck. That's bad follow through. You keep talking because it gives you comfort. But comfort kills growth. You need to make a decision. Do you want to be impressive when you talk or unstoppable when you move? Because you can't be both. Action is where clarity comes from. You don't need to figure out the whole path. You need to take the first damn step. Step you take gives you new information. Every silent move builds confidence. You're not supposed to know exactly how it ends. You're supposed to start, mess up, adjust, and keep going. But you'll never get that data if you're still sitting there planning your perfect script for success. Stop scripting. Start living. And let me tell you something. Your results are your real voice. People respect action. They might not clap at first. They might not notice. They might even doubt you. Who cares? Stay quiet, stay consistent, and one day they'll be forced to listen, not to your words, but to your proof. Silence is powerful, but action makes it undeniable. That's how you flip the switch from talker to doer. Don't tell people what you're building. Build it. Don't post your goals. Achieve them. Don't explain your next move. Execute it. Let them wonder what you're up to. Let your progress make the noise. Because real winners move in silence and let the world see results, not blueprints. Talking about your dreams doesn't protect them. It exposes them. Keep your vision private until it's too strong to be destroyed by opinions. And stop waiting for the perfect time to act. There's no perfect time. There's only now. You think confidence comes before action? Wrong. Action creates confidence. You build belief through movement, not motivation. Motivation doesn't show up first. Discipline does. And discipline doesn't need an announcement. It needs commitment. Listen, you can't think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into one. Stop saying, I'm trying. Stop saying, I'm planning. No, you're delaying. Start doing. Even a small imperfect action beats 1,000 perfect ideas. Every minute you waste talking about what you'll do someday is a minute someone else is out there doing it right now. The bottom line is this. You can talk like you're serious or you can move like you're serious, but the world only believes the movers. The more you act, the quieter your insecurities get. The quieter your insecurities get, the louder your progress becomes. That's the transformation you've been chasing, not louder words, but stronger moves. And once you master that, once you stop wasting time talking and start living in motion, you'll realize something even deeper. Success isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things, quietly and intentionally. That's where we're headed next, building your own inner discipline zone, your personal monastery of focus, where all the real growth happens. Let's get something straight. You don't need to run off to a mountain, shave your head, or live like a monk to change your life. What you need is discipline. You need to build your own version of a monastery right where you are, in your home, in your daily routine, in your mind, a place where distractions die and focus rules. You've got to create a space where peace isn't a luxury. It's the standard. Because if you don't, the world will invade your mind 24/7 and you'll keep mistaking chaos for progress. Here's the truth. You are constantly overstimulated. You're glued to your phone. Your mind is hooked on notifications and you've forgotten what silence feels like. You wake up reacting instead of creating. That's not living. That's surviving on autopilot. You want to train your mind to stay silent, then you have to cut the noise. That means turning the phone off, not off, saying no more often, protecting your time like Your peace depends on it because it does. Your inner monastery isn't a physical place. It's a mental state. It's when you stop letting the world dictate your attention. It's when you wake up and decide, no, I'm not checking messages first thing. I'm not starting my day in chaos. You journal. You sit in stillness. You think. You breathe. You listen to your own thoughts again. Because here's the deal. When you stop drowning in noise, your inner voice gets louder. And that voice, that's your compass. That's your clarity. That's the real you. Let me hit you with something hard. You're not burnt out because you're working too much. You're burnt out because you're thinking too much about things that don't matter. You're letting other people's opinions and energy hijack your focus. You've got leaks everywhere, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. That's why nothing feels right. That's why you're exhausted even when you've done nothing. You need to seal those leaks, and the only way to do it is to pull back, rebuild your boundaries, and live with more intention. Silence isn't boring, it's healing. When you start sitting in quiet, it'll feel uncomfortable at first. You'll reach for your phone, you'll crave noise, but that discomfort, that's your addiction leaving your system. Stay with it. Sit through it. Eventually, the silence will stop feeling empty and start feeling full of insight, calm, and direction. That's when you know you're building your inner monastery right. And listen, this isn't about being antisocial. It's about being selective. You've got to get ruthless about what earns your attention. Every yes you say to something meaningless is a no to your growth. You don't need to attend every conversation, respond to every text, or scroll through every argument online. Most of it is noise, and you've got better things to do. This isn't about isolating yourself. It's about elevating yourself. You need routines that support peace, not pressure. Start your day without chaos. Read instead of scroll. Write instead of post. Think instead of react. When you train your mind to live in quiet focus, you start operating from a level most people can't even see. They're too distracted. But you're calm, clear, and centered. That's when creativity flows. That's when real decisions get made. That's when success stops being something you chase and starts being something you attract. Here's what happens when you live this way. Your relationships improve because you stop reacting. Your goals become clearer because you stop second guessing. Your energy goes up because you stop bleeding it into noise. You start leading your life instead of letting life drag you. That's what the inner monastery does. It turns you from reactive to intentional, from overwhelmed to in control. You want to be different? Be disciplined. You want peace? Protect your silence. You want results? Build your own environment for success, not one filled with chaos, but one filled with focus. Remember, it's not about escaping the world. It's about mastering yourself inside it. Because here's the truth. Once you learn to find peace within yourself, you stop needing it from anyone else. That's power. That's freedom. And that's what leads you to the final step, the real victory, the state of mind where you're calm under pressure, steady in storms, and unshakable when everyone else is losing it. That's where we're going next. The peaceful mind that always wins. Here's the ultimate truth. The most dangerous person in the room is not the loudest one. It's not the one with the biggest voice, the strongest muscles, or the flashiest success. It's the one who can stay calm when everyone else is falling apart. Because the one who controls their emotions controls the situation. That's the real definition of power. Quiet, steady, unshakable peace. When you've trained your mind to stay silent, when you've built your inner monastery, something shifts inside. You stop reacting. You stop explaining. You stop defending. You simply understand. People can insult you. Situations can crumble. Storms can rage. And yet inside you stay centered. That's not weakness. That's mastery. That's self-command. because life doesn't reward those who panic. It rewards those who pause. Think about it. Every time you've made a bad decision, it came from emotion, anger, fear, impatience. But the best choices you've ever made, they came from calm, from clarity, from a quiet space in your mind where truth could finally be heard. You can't see clearly when your thoughts are loud. You can't move wisely when your emotions are chaotic. The peaceful mind cuts through that fog. It sees what others miss. It moves when others freeze. It listens when others scream. And this is what separates the average from the exceptional: composure. Not because they don't feel emotions, but because they've learned to lead them. You see, most people are slaves to how they feel. You've become the master. You've built that control. You've turned silence into strategy. And now peace isn't something you chase. It's something you command. Here's the paradox of power. The calmer you are, the stronger you become. People mistake calmness for passivity, but they don't realize how much strength it takes to not react, to not respond to provocation, to not explain yourself when you could easily destroy someone with your words. That kind of restraint is pure dominance. Because you're no longer controlled by external chaos, you've become the stillness inside the storm. Let me remind you, a peaceful mind doesn't mean a passive life. It means deliberate action. It means you think before you move. You wait before you speak. You see the whole board before making your next move. While others are running in circles, you're conserving your energy, observing, calculating. You're 10 steps ahead because your mind is clear enough to see patterns others overlook. That's how. Leaders are made not through noise, but through awareness. Life will keep testing you. People will still trigger you. Circumstances will still shift. But every time you remain calm, you evolve. You rise above the pull of reaction. You stop letting temporary emotions destroy permanent peace. You start moving like a monk in a battlefield, unbothered, unhurried, unstoppable. That's when you've truly arrived at mastery. And the beauty of it all? Once your mind learns to stay peaceful under pressure, everything around you begins to change. You attract different people. You make better choices. You see opportunities where others see obstacles. You become magnetic, not because you're trying, but because peace radiates confidence. It tells the world, I am not desperate, I am not afraid, I am in control. So remember this final lesson. Silence is not emptiness. It's energy. It's the reset button for your mind. Time you pause, you recharge. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you build power. Every time you refuse to be dragged into chaos, you expand your control over your destiny. The peaceful mind doesn't fight for dominance, it creates it. Quietly, consistently, relentlessly. And that's where the real winners live. Not in the noise, not in the chaos, but in the calm center of their own power. That's the end game of mental mastery. So train your mind, guard your silence, protect your peace like it's sacred, because it is. Because in this world of noise, distraction, and emotional storms, the peaceful mind always wins.